Nicholas, we see so often in practice, and especially small and medium practices, that the guys run around like headless chickens, servicing clients, managing their staff, and very often they lack the time and effort to actually start focusing on their own practices. And they forget that they are building a practice which is going to help them to retire one day. And therefore it's imperative that they start building these practices to something which Pavlov calls an asset of value, in order to assist them to move and exit the business at some stage and do so with a profitable share. Nicholas, we often hear that one of the number one challenges that SMPs have is staff. How do they get productivity out of the staff? How do they get their staff working efficiently? How do they manage their staff properly? And that is being addressed in the Practice Management Conference. Another area which they often do complain about, or perhaps not complain about, but I think it's an inherent challenge within their practices, is profitability of services. Many of our practitioners are spending a lot of time on compliance work, and work which they do struggle to complete due to some of our government agencies, and then those services do not always become profitable. Should they actually be performing those services? These are questions that they need to start asking themselves and start aligning their practices and making decisions within their practices strategically to ensure that their practices become more profitable. We will be presenting a topic on the development of a practice, how to grow your practice. So we'll be having a short presentation on some ideas on how to do that. We'll be having Mark Holton on the panel, an expert on how to become or how to grow your practice into more of an advisory practice, which I think is key within the South African legislative and regulatory environment. And then we'll also then pull on to two practitioners in the field, psycho practitioners who have had experience in this and will be able to tell us the do's and don'ts of how to actually grow your practice successfully. Nicholas, I always think it's important for practitioners to invest in their own business. So the simple answer is yes. I also think the timing of the Practice Management Conference is ideal. I think it happens in October, and the Practice Management Conference really gives them the tools to be able to improve their practices. It doesn't make them improve the practice. They have to go and do some work based on what they've learned at the Practice Management Conference. So yes, I think that the timing is very good. Happening in October, they've got then the November, December reasonably quiet time to reflect on where they want to take their practices in 2015. And I think they must go to the Practice Management Conference with that in mind, and really for planning for their future. And therefore I think it's also important that they may wish to attend all 3 days, which is a full scope, or they may only wish to attend certain sessions which they feel are perhaps areas within their own practice which need development, and perhaps choosing 1 or 2 key sessions which they can then really focus on and put a lot of effort in, and then get benefit out of actioning what they've learned from the Practice Management Conference. Yes, I think if they go there with this insight to learn on those specific items and then develop an action plan based on what they've learned, I definitely think it can achieve those objectives. I think the content is very relevant. I think the content meets the challenges that are being experienced currently in small and medium practices today within South Africa. I always think as South Africans we like the glitz and glamour of international presenters, and therefore I do think the two Marks, Mark Holton and Mark Lloyd-Bottom, will probably be two very popular sessions. I also think their topics are extremely relevant within the current environment within South Africa. My role in SAICA is really to spearhead and to be the voice of small and medium practitioners amongst all the other CAs within the Institute, and really to raise their concerns at the highest level. So our focus is really to identify challenges and opportunities available for small and medium practitioners, and to try where we can to service those as SAICA. So we have a lot of resources that we've put in place, things like technical query systems, operational query systems where they can escalate SARS and CIPC queries to SAICA for escalation, a huge amount of guides and resources on our technical content, as well as even practice management tools and products, and marketing tools and products. So it really is looking at the whole ambit of the practice and trying to assist them to service their clients better. Nicholas, I've just recently seen the results of a survey that SAICA did with the Global Accounting Alliance on succession planning. And one of the statistics that completely shocked me was that almost a third of sole practitioners are expecting to retire after the age of 70. Now, for me, I don't think any of us really view our future with the aim to retire post 70. And I think one of the reasons, and I'm not saying the only reason, but one of the reasons that that happens is we are not managing our practices effectively to enable us to retire earlier. And I think that for me is really key, is when you start a practice, start with the end in mind, know where you're going with it. Also identify a niche service. There are hundreds of accountants out there. Don't just be one of the hundreds. Find something that's really you're passionate about and that you can service your clients to the full extent. And I think those for me are two key things.